Superintendent's report.
Curriculum Advisory Council, Lauren Ramona Towner, no update. A meeting will be scheduled for May to discuss new course proposals and starting to discuss the foreign language offering and program improvements. Facilities Advisory Council, which is Tom Jacobs and Wes. No update. A meeting will be scheduled in May to discuss the minor projects that are scheduled for this summer, which is basically the railings, and then we have some landscaping work and some minor in-house work, but no major construction or roofs this year. Finance Advisory Council, we did have a meeting on Tuesday, April 20th. Specific documents and figures will be included in Kristen's, or are included in Kristen's report. Current fiscal year status and where we are projecting for June 30th. I mean, we're in a good position right now, better than what we anticipated, and a lot of that's because of the additional federal funding we've received. So that has been helpful. We've had some expenditures that are we're starting to see a trend that they're coming in lower than predicted. So that's also helped offset some of the property tax collections that we have not received. Kristen will have in there we discussed a COVID financial tracking document, which you'll see in the Assistant Superintendent's report, but it just gives you an idea of how much money the school district has expended during the pandemic. You know, when you start putting numbers to some of the services you're providing, just like lunch service, and seeing that we spent over $500,000, you know, towards providing our families lunches throughout this pandemic since last March. It really does put some things in perspective. The good thing is a majority of these will be covered either by reimbursement or a portion of reimbursement and some of those federal dollars, so that's helped. The FY22 budget process, we just started to discuss the budgeting process with our departments and building level administrators. We talked as an advisory council about the projected $1 million we're supposed to receive in FY22 at some point in FY22 from the federal government, and be dispersed from the state as our third ESSER payment. And that's, we talked a little bit about this last week, and we talked about the additional FTE to help get any class sizes that were at or near the cap, below the cap, to ensure that we can open with full classes next year. We talked about SEL initiatives. You know, it's funny that Lily and Michael mentioned that. One of the things we talked about at the Finance Advisory was the possibility of maybe adding on some additional psych services. We purchased our psych services from LADSI, so possibly looking at purchasing some additional psych services to help with some interventions, as well as some data analysis on that learning loss. We also talked about maybe using a behavior interventionist. We think, I mean, it's obvious we're going to have, you know, 40 to 50% of our students have not been back on campus in over a year. So you're going to have some students that are going to experience some transition issues, as well as even just issues acclimating back to the classroom, and teachers acclimating back to having, you know, a full group of students in their class. So we are going to look to dedicate some of those funds to additional, you know, psych services, some behavior interventionists, support services, RAP services for students who maybe are not identified as special education students but are having a hard time transitioning back. So those are a couple things that we're looking at. And then obviously instructional tech and building safety, some additional para-educators. I think we're looking at about 4 additional para-educators to be coming in. So we had a good discussion, and we'll begin to elaborate on those ideas and concepts as we move through the budget process here in May and June. Personnel Advisory, no update. The building administration is conducting interviews now for certified vacancies. Policy Advisory Council, no update. Kristen, Mike Connors, Bridget Wilmont are working on our SOPA policy. Again, that's our Student Online Personal Protection Act. So any software that we're using that collects student data or student information, you have to have formal agreements that align with the Personal Protection Act. And so we've been working closely, which you'll probably see some uptick in legal bills, because every one of these contracts we've been sending to Nikki at Frantic. Now, what they have started to put in place, if there's other districts that have already got a SOPA agreement with a vendor, there's been some type of collaboration consortium where then we could use that same agreement that other schools have identified. So that's helped expedite the process a little bit, but it is still a pretty thorough process.
Yeah, make sure you take advantage of that. We've been able to piggyback off a lot of them, right? And then my only question, I look forward to the full report, but I just started planning today for my teacher training on it, right? So that staff understands the full depth of the law, right? Because a lot of them go off, and at least at my level, and create an account here and there, and they go outside of what we sanction as a district, and they need to understand the gravity of those decisions, right? At the, that kids' personal information is equal to currency on the web. Whatever, currency can mean a lot of things, right? Money, other things, right? So they just need to really be made aware of that.
So we did a faculty presentation on Monday to the entire staff about the modified procedures, as well as all of the background related to SOPA. And so any technology purchase or request to create a free account that students will use will all be going through the business office, so that then we can funnel it through the proper channels. And we currently have 65 signed DPAs, which are
Nice.
data privacy agreements. So we feel like we're in a really great spot, and we started by tackling all of the big
biggies,
names
right,
that
sure,
really,
Skyward
transcend the
and-
entire school, Skyward, Schoology, things of that nature. And then, we're going to trickle down to the free accounts
Sure.
and focus on those last. But we also have asked teachers if they feel like they use something in their discipline that is a priority that we may not know is a priority,
Sure.
to let us know. And we've sent out a form so that we can then prioritize that in the month of May and make sure we have that ready to go before they leave for summer.
Right.
So how many are outstanding then? If you 65, that's impressive, but how many?
I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. We've also asked staff to share, we feel we have a very comprehensive list. We've used this free tool to, gather information on what is out there that our staff and students are using, but we want to make sure that we're not missing something. So I can provide that number. I don't want to speak.
I think you got 3 or 4 currently
exactly.
just working with the attorney right now.
I sent 4 to the attorney this week.
Right, I just
yes.
saw that
Yeah.
this
It sounds
week.
like we're getting a briefing on it in the coming months anyway. So
Yes.
It
Yeah.
is a
It's
huge
massive.
undertaking, and the nexus of it all was a data breach in Rockford about 4 years ago. I think 4 years ago. So, there are over 35, the last I checked, and they were adding more, but there are over 35 points of personal information in the law, right? Like your voice, your biometric data, the enormity of it is just daunting. So thank you to Kristen and Mike for taking care of it.
Bridget's done a lot with it, too.
And Bridget
Correct.
too. And you're the official privacy officer?
Mike Connors is the
Mike
official
is,
privacy.
right, doesn't come, you get a title, you don't get a raise, right? My poor tech director was like, great, another title, no more money. Well, thank you, Kristen, because it is, and thank Mike and Bridget, because I know exactly, I'm in those meetings, it's a lot.
It is a lot. I will pass it along.
Are you done?
Yep.
All right.
Yes, I'm done.